might not know what Monero is, Monero is basically what Bitcoiners thought they bought. What that means is that you thought you bought Bitcoin because it was anonymous and all this other stuff that can't be tracked and replicated cash. But that's how a lot of the early Bitcoiners thought they purchased. But in reality, what you really wanted to buy was Monero, because then it's fully anonymous. It replicates cash exactly in a digital form. And it has a very grassroots movement to it. There's no marketing department. There's no company behind it. It's just regular people like us that's just in the community to support this project. And I mean, if you look at the Monero price in the past year or two, it hasn't really done too much compared to everything else, like doggy coin, right? You don't make your 10, 20x, at most maybe like 2, 3x with Monero. But that has to do with a lot, because a lot of exchanges do not accept Monero because they banned it. Because the thing is that a lot of people, because when people take money out and purchase Monero, they can transfer it out. They don't know where it goes once it leaves the exchanges. So then it's not good in a regulatory standpoint, because the exchanges can't track if you're sending it to a terrorist or some nefarious, right? So that's why a lot in the US, the only place you can really get it is Kraken, if I remember correctly, to get this coin. So, and then this really raises alarm bells for me. It's like, oh, wow, something you can't get. Like, it's like, okay, this must be something, right? But regardless, now what they've been trying to do is do atomic swaps with Monero. Atomic swaps is basically being able to trade Monero for Bitcoin or Monero for Ethereum in this case, which is what they're developing, where you don't need an exchange anymore. So you could just trade your Monero for a Bitcoin, and you don't even need to know the person. So that's basically what they're trying to solve. And they already have a Bitcoin atomic swap kind of working, but it's still very early. It's maybe a year old. It's still very clunky here and there. But they're working on the Ethereum atomic swaps, which would be most ideal for people on Ethereum. Like if you want to do a rug pull, you will exit Monero. You want to send it to an exchange, right? So there's always a need for something like that. But either way, it brings in more people into the ecosystem. And the next major Monero upgrade is called Seraphis. It's recent news, which is only this month. Seraphis upgrade for Monero is a huge deal, because it kind of makes Monero act a little more transparent, like Bitcoin and Ethereum. So for those that use Monero, it's very clunky, where you have to open your wallet to see your balance all the time, versus where in Bitcoin, you just paste your address into a website and you can see your balance. And Monero is also the fact that you have to wait like 5-10 minutes every time you open your wallet. If you haven't opened it in a long time, it has to scan the blockchain to update your balance. So that's very problematic because it's so private. And what this upgrade does, it actually gives the ability for exchanges to be audited a lot easier. Because right now, so Binance has Monero, but the thing is that a lot of people are speculating that they're manipulating this number, because you can't see the true balance of what Binance has. And with this ability, now merchants and exchanges could be like, oh, okay, we actually have 10,000 Monero and we're not lying. This solves this major hurdle, and it has the potential to actually bring in much more adoption because of this capability. Next is we have Kate Wallet. Kate Wallet sponsored with events back in the old days. So Kate Wallet is one of the 2 other crypto Monero wallets, and they've just recently purchased Monero.com. So I'm pretty sure they paid an arm and a leg for it, at least definitely in the 6 figures just for a domain name. And they're here to stay, and seeing that they're really gung-ho about the Monero community. And for price and trading speculation of Monero, so Sir Bud Fox, Twitter persona, he's saying there'll be a bullish 18 months for Monero in the forecast. So he might do some technical analysis if you guys believe in that stuff. But I tend to rather go for on-chain data and see the trends of Monero. So this chart goes all the way back to 2019 and all the way to 2020. So this is all the transactions on the Monero blockchain. Obviously, you can see a trending up. Even though it's not on a lot of exchanges, especially in the US exchanges, you can't trade Monero, but you could trade on the foreign exchanges. But regardless, no one's going to use, right now, I don't believe anyone's really using the Monero to buy Starbucks coffee. So this increase of transaction data, transaction amount, I think it might has to do with the dark web, which is how Bitcoin started in the early days with the Silk Road, where transactions were gradually increasing because people were actually had a real use case for Bitcoin back in the day to buy whatever they had to buy on the Silk Road in the dark web. And this coincides with when the dark web started transitioning from Bitcoin, because a lot of the sellers were getting busted for selling whatever they were selling because they had to pay their rent. So then whenever they collected the Bitcoin, they cashed out. So now the government, they could track them and everything. So a lot of dark web markets, they started forcing the sellers to accept only Monero because it made everybody safer. And this could be the potentially why the transactions are increasing, but the price isn't increasing. So that's a disconnect right there. And another thing why there might be a 18-month bullish sentiment with Monero is because this coming June, Monero's mining pretty much ends. What ends as in the tail emissions kicks in. Basically, starting in June of this year, and for the end of time, every 2 minutes you can mine 0.6 Monero every 2 minutes, which is about 430 Monero a day, which is peanuts compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Okay, so just looking at this, it's definitely undervalued compared to obviously the big boys. So the blue line there is every 4 years, Bitcoin has a halving. So the mining gets cut in half, which is why you see a snap. So Monero is a gradual decline of mining. And currently, once June hits, it will be the lowest output of coins compared to Bitcoin, that is. And that's for the next 2 years until the next halving, which happens in 2024 for Bitcoin. That's when it takes effect. So this might be why there might be a bullish sentiment, because there's just a lack of supply. Monero was also mentioned on the Timcast stream. For those that follow him, he actually has 1 million subscribers on YouTube. So what they discussed was about governments coming in and not confiscating Bitcoin, but just ruling that it's funding terrorists and this and that, and they want to censor where you have to submit all this KYC information, which is pretty much what Biden announced literally in the past 24 hours, which is bullish for Bitcoin, because now the administration is saying it's a matter of national security, Bitcoin. And because it's a national security, Monero is even worse of a national security, because the thing is that it's completely anonymous. Okay, so that's another thing to keep a lookout for. But I mean, the executive orders they're preparing executive action in the coming week. We don't know what they're going to say. So I'm sure it might crash crypto markets temporarily, but then it'll just go right back up, because it just legitimizes everything for them to make it as a national security threat. And so this what might be required in the US. This is already kind of required in Switzerland, which is I think it's called the AOPP regulation, where as a user, you have to provide your name and address and prove that you own your crypto address, your hardware wallet. So aside from doing KYC on the exchange, providing your ID and stuff, now you have to provide your address and your ID to the wallet on your phone that you know, they want to know where this money is going, okay? So once they have that, they can see where all this other money is going, where it's flowing, right? So Monero would be a huge threat to this entire system if it gets widely adopted. So this is already implemented in Switzerland. It's very well, most likely going to happen in the US eventually. Because I think the Trezor hardware wallet, they did an upgrade, a software upgrade to enable this feature where you could link your address or something. They just announced it like literally yesterday. Yeah. So they're getting a lot of heat for that too. Yeah. And so again with the markets, so those that follow the Fed interest rates and stuff like that, where it affects the stock market, crypto markets, everything. So looked into it a little bit. So even though Fed says they're going to raise rates, and everyone expects the stock market to drop because they raised the rates. So there is a interesting chart that somebody made. In the past 50 years, every time the Fed raised rates, supposedly the markets went up. There's only one time in the 70s where it actually went down. The stock market went down. And this is throughout the year, that is. Obviously, maybe they raise rates and it drops temporarily, but at the end of the year, it'll go back up. But in the 70s, that's when the recession happened, in the 76, 78. That's when the recession happened, which is when the Fed raised rates, the stock market actually did crash. But for every other decade, it went up. So something to keep in mind of, yeah. I think it's just raising of interest rates. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't think so. I don't think they've discussed that. But these are some good dates to keep in mind. It's not too many to remember. Just February and March. The Fed is going to have a meeting on the 25th and the 15th of March. So expect some type of volatility in the markets when these dates do come happen. And if you have positions, maybe might step on the side, stay on the sidelines, right? So what people are saying is why they're doing this is in preparation for the midterm elections in November 2022. Because if the markets actually did crash, it would affect the elections, and because obviously a bad market doesn't do well for people that want to get reelected or whatever. So expect maybe actually up market. Who knows, right? I think that's it for the markets. Next project I've been monitoring is the Secret Network. It's another privacy coin. So what they have compared to Monero is that they're able to do smart contracts. They're basically the Ethereum of the privacy space, and they have the ability to make Bitcoin anonymous. But then you have to wrap your Bitcoins or something like that. I never used it, but I've been following the project, and just this month they announced that they have $500 million in funding just for people to get developers on board, and that's a lot of money compared to a lot of other privacy projects. So this is one project to keep an eye on in the coming years, assuming that they could go anywhere compared to other privacy projects. Because definitely Monero doesn't even have that much for funding. They have to people have to beg for it. Right. So next project, one of my friends introduced me to it is Railgun. This one's very interesting. When he first introduced it to me, it was just Ethereum. When the fees were high, I was like, it's not going to work with high fees. Maybe if it worked on the other projects. So Railgun, they have a really pretty decent team from what I've seen. And just today, they announced that they got 10 million funding from a DCG group, which is the owners of CoinDesk, and also I think they invest in Coinbase. They're one of the early OG companies, crypto companies. So the fact that they're investing in that just made me watch it even more closely now. Railgun. So just long story short, basically what Railgun does is it anonymizes your Ethereum, your any type of your tokens that you own, like doggy coins. You don't want your people to know that you own like 10 billion Shiba Inu or something, you know, and then because you own these dog coins, you got these other dog coins and you own this, you know, those like Mark Cuban, you know, everyone knows his address. They see what he buys. I'm sure that's annoying every time, okay, for especially people like that. So this anonymizes it. Next news bit is Kim.com, for those that do follow Kim.com. So he is a interesting character. So he's in New Zealand. Supposedly he's getting extradited to US, even though he's never been to the US, for running a mega upload where it was basically a file hosting for like pirated software and movies and stuff like that. But he's really against the US government, and he's an interesting character to watch and listen. So he's been talking some stuff about LokiNet and Session, which is two projects that has to do with privacy. One is for MixNet, like Tor, and the other Session app is alternative to Signal Messenger. So I don't know if you guys know Signal, the CEO of Signal, Moxie, he resigned. So that's a really big deal. So the fact that he resigned and now other people are taking over Signal, you don't know what might happen down the line if they get a government pressure to review your messenger messages. So they actually, the Session messenger, they just hit 1 million users. That's a pretty big deal for a decentralized messenger coming from like WhatsApp or anything else. And LokiNet is another project under the Oxen project, which is also Oxen controls LokiNet and Session. These are pretty much free software, but it's in the background, the blockchain actually manages a lot of the infrastructure. So Kim.com is looking into those, so you see what happens. Now, for the most interesting part of the month. So this this DeFi thing, which we were talking about, if you guys stepped in before. So Quadriga CX, give a small background story for those who do not know. Quadriga CX back in 2019, they went. I think the CEO supposedly died in India, and he was holding the keys to the hardware wallet that held $170 million, if I remember correctly. And no one ever saw the body. Supposedly they cremated him for whatever reason, and nobody saw the body, and he just disappeared in 2019. So a lot of people were freaked out because they left the money on the exchange. This was like a trusted exchange in Canada. It's like it was like the Coinbase of Canada at that time. supposedly. I never used it, but from what I hear is a lot of people trusted the exchange. It seemed legitimate. So the money's gone. A lot of people are missing missing out on it, and they didn't know what to do. The Canadian government. So come speed up 2 years from now. So in the past 48 hours, Wonderland, which is a DeFi project, which pays about 70,000 to 80,000 APY, which is insane amount of return in a year. So what they found out, they pretty much are on a big downtrend because somebody doxed one of the other co-founders. The CFO of Wonderland is actually the co-founder of Kodjiga X's exchange. So this guy is supposedly dead, but his co-founder, which I believe is the real puppet master behind all of this, he's actually the CFO of this project, and he has control of like hundreds of millions of dollars. And they found out that he's behind it. So then everybody's like freaking out, and the price of this thing crashed like crazy, like 70, 80% in like a month. The what? Yes, so yeah, the other background story is that, so this guy's been a convicted serial criminal for the past 20 years. So he changed his name multiple times, even had plastic surgery, and so he used to run an identity theft ring, and so this is this guy, right? So they outed him. So there's on Twitter, it's going crazy on Twitter about this. There's an investigator. He was following this for many years supposedly, and he released all this information about it and how it all connects back to the Italian mafia somehow. Somehow it connects to the Italian mafia from for basically laundering money and just cleaning the money, the dirty money. And because he is the co-founder of Wonderland, the CEO of Wonderland actually, there's no picture of him here, but yeah, it's him, but it's a fraud guy. But Daniele is one of the celebrities of the DeFi space in a way. And so now his reputation is totally ruined because of this fiasco. Because the thing is, a lot of people are wondering, how did he hire a criminal like that? Didn't he do a background check? And supposedly he did, and he knew that he was that guy, but he gave him a chance anyway, because he believed in second chances. But then they dug a little deeper, this investigator, and they found that there's a lot of connections also back to Bitfinex and Pattern, which also has criminals that were behind it too. So they're all connected somehow one way or another. But the thing is that Daniele, supposedly he's the good guy. Like he's like the face of a lot of these projects because he's part of he runs the Abracadabra project, which recently got listed on Coinbase in October, which when I heard about it, I was like, this project is like literally like less than 6 months old and it got listed on Coinbase. There's some funny insider stuff going on, definitely. Because you gotta know insiders to be able to do that. So Daniele is part of Abracadabra, Wonderland, and Popsicle Finance, if you guys follow that. So yes, so exactly. So that's what, here's the gamble. So for those that follow it, there's a treasury balance and it's also to back the token value. So technically people are saying that assuming the project is still legitimate and it still technically works, if you put in whatever amount, you put in $1,000, technically is an easy 2x, supposedly, right? It's true. I mean, the project is a solid project. It's just that one bad actor. That's it. So, I mean, they're going to oust him over the weekend. But the thing is that there's just so much bad rep behind it, we don't know what will happen. We don't know what will happen, but it's a gamble, obviously, you know. So if it's gonna even go back, but for me, I would just sell it. It's not worth it because it just ties back to so much stuff. You don't know what's gonna happen because you have to. This abracadabra is basically what MakerDAO was back in the day, where MakerDAO wanted to make a synthetic USD stablecoin, but now they stopped doing that and they just backed it with USDC, which isn't a synthetic stablecoin, which is what Abracadabra is doing with the MIM token, which is Magic Internet Money. That's what it stands for, and that's a stablecoin, one-to-one. And so this also tanked in the past couple of days because of this fiasco. Yeah. So, and what else was there? So there was a lot of leaked conversations with with these guys. So it ties back to the Phoenix guys, and there's a bunch of criminals basically, and the mafia. So I don't know. I just got into this, and I find this comical, and it's someone's gonna make a movie out of this. It's so funny if you read this. I haven't linked on the meetup page, but it's fun. Yeah. And yeah, that's about it with my my overview of the markets. But anything else you guys wanna bring up? Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. What do you mean? Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean by that? Oh no, because the way it works is the reason why Monero makes it anonymous is that what it does is that it takes like you can imagine it takes when you send your coins, it takes outputs, what is called transaction outputs. It'll take like 10 or 20 previous transactions from other people, from other people's wallets, and then it'll mix it in with your transaction. So now you can't say who it is, right? So that's why it's anonymous. So what they call is called a ring CT. I mean, obviously I simplified it by a lot, but that's the idea behind it, where you can't say, oh, this one's mine, you know, or that one's mine, you know. And the fact that they also use a lot of other type of cryptography where they anonymize the amounts. You can't see how much you're sending if you look at the blockchain. You can just see that money is something is moving somewhere. That's it. Yeah, so that's why. Yeah, you get it. It's like if everyone in the room had $100 bill and put it on the table, and we all took it back, you get the same $100 bill. You know, it's like that. You know, something like. Yeah, basically, that's what a mixer does, right? But it's a little more complicated than that, obviously. A little more complicated. Yeah. So yeah, so that's my my quick talk of overview. So guys hang out outside, or whatever, pick each other's brains. All right. Let's see.